The first film of 2025, at least to my recollection, that has come along and had an excellent marketing campaign. Oh man, those trailers for weapons, it was really, really, really good stuff, okay? It set you up thinking that, something weird is going on, something interesting, there's a mystery, and then about halfway through the trailer goes full on shock and awe and throws you for a loop. It gets you excited for a product. I don't know if it was as good of a trailer as the first for 28 years later, but unlike that catastrophic disaster, Weapons actually lived up to the hype, and from what I'm hearing from certain people, may have actually exceeded it. So good on Zach Cregger for actually delivering on a promise that has consistently bit people in the ass in the form of a mystery box movie, or storytelling rather, and captivated the audience. It's just like this film has, as far as I can tell, received a universal acclaim. At worst, I'm hearing people say that some of the shot choices are, I'm not exactly keen on that, or I don't know about the goofy nature, and I don't even know anything about the finale. Like, I know how things get set up, but the one thing is like, the finale is just tonally goofy. It took me out of it. Like, I'm hearing a little bit about that, but outside of that, it doesn't even detract from how much people like this film. Like, they really like it. It's getting put right up at the top of so many people's best movie of 2025 list. But when you take a look at the competition, that's not exactly a murderer's row, to say the least. But yes, taking a look at the box office, it absolutely dominated this past weekend. Okay, crushed Freakier Friday and left Fantastic Four in the dust. But then again, I also released a video of a deer walking through my neighborhood, and it actually eclipsed Fantastic Four at the box office. Just wild stuff, right? People watch anything, I guess. So because it is 2025 after all, and people literally cannot live in the moment, they're wondering, hey Zach, what's coming up next? Hey Zach, what are you doing next? Well, funny you should ask, because the director of Barbarian, the visionary behind Weapons, well, he's going to be taking a crack at an IP that is well respected in gaming, but when it comes to Hollywood adaptations, seems to kill more careers than an association with Rachel Zegler. So Zach Cregger says his Resident Evil movie exists outside the original characters. Oh shit. Okay, so he's making a Resident Evil movie, and it's also not going to be a proper adaptation. Oh Jesus Christ, where have we heard this again? Because fans already have that with the games, I'm not going to tell Leon's story. Oh, great. So what's the point of doing a Resident Evil adaptation? Now, I hear something like this, honestly, and you know my opinion, or at least if you haven't, I will go ahead and clarify for you. The whole adaptation argument, it doesn't hold water for me at all whatsoever. I love Lord of the Rings movies, and the more that I learn about the lore, and now that I've got a couple of audiobooks, I'm going to be listening to the books themselves, and yeah, they are fundamentally different. They use a lot of the names, a lot of the same iconography, a lot of the big old story beats, but so much of that stuff is different from Tolkien's writings as opposed to Peter Jackson's interpretation, but yet I wouldn't give up either for anything, okay? Like the Lord of the Rings movies, okay, they're the greatest piece of cinematic production ever committed to celluloid, and at this point in time, for as good as Weapons is, is it going to be able to stand the test of time? Next year is going to be the 25th anniversary of Fellowship of the Ring, and that was a big old gut punch when I made that connection, but at the same time, nothing has even come close to that. And then also, the masterwork of Tolkien being printed, being completed in the 50s. Sorry, George R.R. Martin, you can't even fucking finish your work, let alone challenge the High King of Gondor, so go ahead and set this one out. So yeah, just because something isn't going to be a straight adaptation doesn't mean that it isn't worthy of existing. It's just with the whole Resident Evil thing, and if you're coming through and saying that, yeah, I'm going to be telling a story, with some of the set dressing of Resident Evil, it's not really going to adhere to any of the stories that you know. Like, yeah, how many times have we been through this? The Paul W.S. Anderson movies, a Netflix show that came out. I mean, people hold some of those animes in fairly high regard, but live action Resident Evil hasn't exactly had the best reputation. Some of those Resident Evil movies are funny as hell, but are they good movies? Fuck no. Are they good Resident Evil movies? Fucks no. They're one of the classic examples of really poor video game adaptations, but I also heard recently that was also a Capcom mandate. They were, back in the early 2000s, taking the same approach that Zach Cregger is right now by saying, yeah, we got the games, okay, but we want to entice new people through the medium of film to come and play the game. So you can use, some of the iconography you can use, you can use like Umbrella Corporation, you can use Raccoon City. That's all fine, well and dandy, but tell a different story. to get people, hooked on the franchise, which was so silly because all of those films were just so categorically different to what the games were that even when people decided to make the crossover to the games, they were immediately put off because it was either not like the movies or they were originally put off by the movies to begin with. So yeah, I don't really like the Resident Evil games. I played a couple of them. They aren't really my thing, but again, they're intensely popular for a reason. So I can sympathize with, how much of this IP has been disrespected and degraded with a subpar adaptations. So now that you have an actual filmmaker on board that's looking to do something, I mean, this might immediately get you to cringe with the news that, yeah, it's pretty much going to be a Zach Cregger film with a coat of Resident Evil paint on it. Well, it's not the worst news you could have got. Could have got the fate that Weapons just about got when Jordan Peele nearly won the rights to that story. You could have had an all-black Weapons movie. You could have had an all-black Resident Evil movie. So count your lucky stars, I suppose. But Zach Cregger remains adamant about not remaking any story within the Resident Evil saga for his big screen adaptation. Although he wants to have an original plot, the Weapons director told Inverse that he's not breaking the rules of the game. He continued, "I'm the biggest worshiper of the games." How many times have we heard that from somebody adapting a video game, a comic book, an anime, and then it just comes out and goes, what the fuck was that? But okay, so I'm telling a story that is a love letter to the games. Oh god, there's another red flag. Again, it's like, oh god, we've seen this all before. Please buck the trend, and follows the rules of the game. Cregger will direct the movie based on the hugely popular horror video game franchise. He has written the script alongside his co-writer, Shay Hatton. Constantine Films is producing and co-financing the film. Constantine's Robert Kulzer? Sure. Vertigo Entertainment's Roy Lee, there we go, and Miri Yoon and PlayStation Productions are also producing. Oh, that's a lot of chefs in the kitchen on that one. Cregger is set on creating a project that is outside the characters of the games, but reassured fans that the game's roots will be respected. Again, we've heard all of this shit before. Guys, don't worry, Rings of Power is totally going to be canonical. It's going to respect the work of Tolkien. Oh, what, you didn't like the first season? Don't worry, the second season is going to be so much more canonical. Alright. It is obedient to the lore of the games. It's just a different story. I'm not going to tell Leon's story because Leon's story is told in the games. Fans already have that, and I can respect that. Okay, the original Resident Evil was released in 1994 as a PlayStation game before it was being ported to just about everything, including toasters and refrigerators. In 2002, the first Resident Evil film premiered in theaters with Mila Jovovich and Michelle Rodriguez as leads. Yeah, Michelle Rodriguez gets killed, and then she gets brought back in 3 or 4. God, it's those Resident Evil films. Like, shout out to EFAP for doing an arc on all of those films way back in the day. That's how a few years back at this point in time, like 4 or 5 years at this point. Jesus Christ, they were funny enough from what I've seen. Even with my limited understanding of Resident Evil, they bear no resemblance, and fuck, they're just bad movies, man. Bad, but they're hilarious. But Jovovich, went on to lead the following Resident Evil: Apocalypse, Extinction, Afterlife, Retribution, the final chapter. Jesus, and then in 2021, filmmaker Johannes Roberts took the franchise reboot Welcome to Raccoon City as writer and director. Fuck. And then what was it, last year or the year before, or 2023, I think you also had the Netflix Resident Evil miniseries that had Black Albert Wesker. Good stuff. Ahead of the August 8th release of Weapons, Cregger told Variety that he hopes to capture the cinematic experience of Resident Evil. Those games pioneered something special. The pacing in those games is so unique and effective, and just being locked in with one character moving from point A to point B, knowing you're going to pass through this gauntlet of terror, and you've got to be cool and methodical and thoughtful about it. That's cool. That's cinematic. So I want to tell the story in a world of the games that honors the lore of the games, but it's a new story. That'll be interesting, man, because next year, I think it's confirmed to be coming out next year, but you've also got Resident Evil 9, which is going to be introducing a new protagonist, that female that freaks on both sides of the Gunner aisle. We're freaking out about, for whatever reason, I forget, but that's going to be coming out next year, and it's going to be set in a nuked Raccoon City. So it's going to be interesting to see if Zach Cregger or a new Resident Evil game is going to be the more faithful Resident Evil story being told, because I can imagine there's probably going to be a pretty quick turnaround on this, as Cregger is very much in development on this project. So yeah, it's probably not going to be too long of a wait for people. see his interpretation, and then I think it comes out in the first quarter of next year, Resident Evil 9, A Requiem. What a terrible name. But we'll see what happens, because like it or not, the Resident Evil series continues on in a very different and interesting direction, and it's still wildly popular. So if you're a fan of that franchise, you're eating good, or you're eating slop. You're still feasting on leftovers from yesteryear. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.